Throughout history, humanity has often failed to protect its own. We've witnessed atrocities, wars, forced displacements, and systemic oppressions, many of which have been obscured, minimized, or misrepresented in historical records. Today, we live in an era of instant information, where events are documented and shared in real time, and footage of suffering is accessible to nearly everyone. Yet despite this awareness, we appear trapped in a cycle, repeating history's darkest moments. Consider the Holocaust, the mass displacement and death of indigenous communities during British colonialism, or the transatlantic slave trade, atrocities whose repercussions are still felt today. These tragedies claimed millions of lives, often allowed to persist through silence or the complicity of those in power. Now, as we witness the struggles of Palestinians, displacement, restricted access to essential resources, and a constant threat of home loss, we face a crucial question. How, in an era where documentation is accessible to all, do we still see no meaningful action? Are we truly advancing, or have we merely developed more sophisticated technological forms of inaction? One figure speaks volumes. In 1948, over 700,000 Palestinians were displaced, losing homes, communities, and livelihoods in an event known as the Nakba, or catastrophe. This trauma continues to impact millions of descendants today. Despite decades of global outcry, displacement and humanitarian concerns in Palestinian regions persist. Welcome to Prottayon. This video serves as an introduction to a series that will delve into each pivotal moment, shedding light on events that continue to shape today's reality. Together, we'll explore the human stories behind the history, narratives of resilience, loss, and unity that deserve our attention. Before we dive in, it's crucial to clarify a key distinction, one that's essential to understanding the heart of this issue. Judaism is an ancient faith, deeply rooted in culture, community, and spirituality, practiced by millions around the world. Zionism, by contrast, is a political ideology that emerged in the late 19th century, advocating for the establishment of a Jewish homeland, primarily in Palestine. This series isn't about religious divisions, it's about the human impact of political ideologies. Historically, Jewish and Muslim communities have coexisted peacefully in many regions, often standing in solidarity during times of hardship. Recognizing this distinction brings us back to the humanity in this story, reminding us that this is about people, not just ideologies or borders. This series isn't about taking sides through generalizations or stereotypes, nor is it about remaining neutral in the face of clear injustices where action feels overdue. Our focus is on the real lived impact of Zionist policies on Palestinians, shedding light on truths that often go overlooked. Whether you're familiar with this conflict or just beginning to explore it, I hope this journey brings clarity and a deeper understanding of the realities on the ground. As I guide you through, I'm learning alongside you. Let's begin in the late 1800s and move forward, uncovering how events, choices, and lives have intertwined to create the landscape we see today. By the end, I hope we all come away with a deeper understanding, not only of the facts, but of the people behind them. Our story begins in the late 1800s, in a Palestine where Muslims, Jews, and Christians lived together in communities marked by trade, culture, and coexistence. It was a land of diverse faiths and backgrounds, each contributing to a shared social and economic life. However, as anti-Semitism spread across Europe, Jewish communities faced worsening persecution. In 1896, Theodor Herzl published The Jewish State, proposing the idea of Zionism, a movement advocating for a Jewish homeland, primarily envisioned in Palestine. For many European Jews facing discrimination and violence, this idea became a beacon of hope. As Jewish immigration to Palestine increased, the region's social and economic landscape began to shift. Land acquisitions by Zionist settlers led to changes that many local Arab communities felt deeply. For instance, as land ownership patterns altered, traditional ways of life were disrupted, sparking concerns over identity and community. Scholars like Rashid Khalidi explain that these early shifts laid the foundation for the tensions that persist today, where questions of identity, community, and land ownership became central and deeply contested. Notably, even in the early stages, some Jewish communities and religious leaders voiced concerns about the idea of establishing a political state. They feared it could lead to displacement and intensify conflict, a distinction that has only grown more pronounced over time. The British Mandate period was a critical era marked by competing promises and shifting alliances. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration conveyed Britain's support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. Yet, just a few years earlier, British officials had made assurances to Arab leaders regarding Arab independence in exchange for their support against the Ottoman Empire during World War I. Reports like the Peel Commission later highlighted how these contradictory promises deepened divisions, leaving both Jewish and Arab communities feeling misled and increasingly distrustful of British intentions. Then came 1948, when Israel declared statehood. For Palestinians, this year marks the Nakba, or catastrophe, a term used to describe the forced displacement of approximately 700,000 people. Imagine the impact. Not only were homes lost, but entire neighborhoods, histories, and ways of life were erased. Human rights reports, including those by UNRWA, underscore that this was not just a one-time event. Its effects continue to shape lives and communities today. The Nakba remains a foundational chapter of the Palestinian experience, a trauma that endures across generations. During this period, many Jewish individuals who opposed the Zionist project voiced their concerns, troubled by the injustices they saw Palestinians beginning to face. Groups such as Brit Shalom advocated for a binational state, envisioning a future where peaceful coexistence could flourish. However, these voices were often marginalized by dominant Zionist narratives as political leaders worked to consolidate support and justify expansion. This suppression highlighted the divide between religious Judaism and political Zionism, a distinction that remains relevant even today. With the establishment of Israel came a series of conflicts that shaped the region's modern history, from the Six-Day War in 1967 to the First Intifada in the late 1980s. Each conflict added new layers to the struggles over land, sovereignty, and human rights. For Palestinians, resistance became a powerful call for recognition, a fight for self-determination in the face of growing challenges. Efforts toward peace, such as the Oslo Accords, offered glimmers of hope, yet a lasting resolution often seemed just out of reach. Life during these years was challenging for both sides. For Palestinians living under occupation, it meant navigating a network of checkpoints, curfews, and severe limitations on daily freedoms. For Israelis, security concerns were also pressing. During this time, some Jewish groups actively protested the occupation, standing in solidarity with Palestinians affected by occupation policies. Organizations like the Israeli group B'Tselem documented human rights violations, and Jewish advocacy groups worldwide spoke out, often facing backlash within their own communities. These efforts illustrated that many Jewish people stood for justice, opposing the actions carried out in their name. In recent decades, digital platforms have given rise to a new kind of advocacy, enabling Palestinians and allies to share their stories directly with the world. Social media has showcased resilience and brought attention to the realities of life under occupation, though censorship remains a major barrier. Organizations like Amnesty International have reported how narratives challenging prevailing power structures often face significant suppression. Yet global solidarity movements continue to amplify these voices, gradually shifting perceptions and sparking greater awareness. A powerful element of this digital advocacy has been the collaboration between Jewish and Palestinian activists, both within Israel and across the world. Groups like Jewish Voice for Peace have campaigned against the occupation, supporting Palestinian calls for human rights and justice. This advocacy reinforces the reality that criticism of Zionism is not a rejection of Judaism. Rather, it reflects a shared commitment to human rights, a principle that resonates across diverse communities. Despite backlash and attempts at suppression, these alliances continue to grow, creating space for nuanced and respectful dialogue. As we reach 2024, the urgency of this issue is clearer than ever. In January, the International Court of Justice, ICJ, ordered Israel to take immediate measures to prevent acts of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Despite this, many governments hesitate, leaving millions of Palestinians vulnerable. With such visible suffering, we're left to question, how long can the world remain passive? One country standing out is Ireland, which has consistently supported Palestinian rights both symbolically and actively. Recently, Ireland formally recognized the state of Palestine alongside nations like Spain and Norway, despite facing political backlash. Irish peacekeepers have even held their ground in Palestinian areas, choosing not to abandon posts despite external pressures, a commitment to peace and solidarity that many others have hesitated to make. Ireland's support goes beyond politics. It reflects a historical empathy rooted in their own struggles and calls the world to a shared conscience. To grasp the scale of this tragedy, consider these figures. Since 1948, over 44,000 Palestinians have been killed, lives cut short by conflict and violence. Among them were thousands of civilians, including children. Globally, at least 7 million Palestinians are displaced, a crisis rivaling the largest refugee displacements in modern history. This reflects the depth of generational trauma and a persistent humanitarian toll. This isn't only about political borders, it's about shared humanity. Each statistic represents a life, a community, and a story of resilience in the face of suffering. In our interconnected world, our response, or silence, shapes not only Palestine's future, but also reflects our collective values. The call to action grows clearer and more urgent each day. As we explore these stories, let's remember that this isn't merely about politics or borders. It's a deeply human struggle, spanning generations and affecting millions of lives. Every person impacted by this situation, Palestinian and Jewish alike, deserves dignity and the right to live freely in their homeland. Every act of empathy, every shared story, and every stand for justice moves us one step closer to that vision. If these stories resonate with you, consider liking this video. Each like and share helps amplify these narratives, bringing hidden realities into clearer view. By subscribing, you're joining us on a journey of understanding, reflection, and hope for a more compassionate world. Here on Prottayon, we're not just sharing information, we're building a community that values humanity, compassion, and unity. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions in the comments. And if there's something specific you'd like us to explore, or if you have questions about this or any other topic, let us know. Your voice can help shape this space into a true reflection of our collective journey toward peace. This isn't just about facts, it's about fostering understanding and hope within this community and beyond. Together we can aspire to a world where humanity, compassion, and respect for all prevail. So let's start this journey, and maybe by listening, learning, and sharing, we can help build a future rooted in unity and peace. Let's begin.